All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our March webinar, Championing Women in Transportation, a panel discussion on leadership and mentorship in transportation for Women's History Month. I want to begin by thanking our presenters and our partners this month, the Minetta Transportation Institute and WTS Sacramento, for their collaboration and partnership. My name is Melissa Figueroa. I have the great privilege of representing the California Transit Association as the Director of Communications and Public Affairs. And on behalf of our Executive Director, Michael Pimentel, and our entire team, we want to thank you for taking the time to join us today. The California Transit Association is a trade organization representing more than 220 organizations, including public transit agencies, commuter rail agencies, transit allies, support groups, and so many more. Together, we're all working under the common purpose of advocating for the creation of transit-friendly policies and transit funding here in California. This month's webinar is part of a series of events the California Transit Association is working on through the 2026 calendar year to connect our members and our partners with organizations that help amplify often underrepresented groups within our industry during months of cultural significance. Through the year, we'll be exploring issues that are topical and thought-provoking, and we hope you find them engaging as well. Today's panel is sure to be a lively one, and we have no doubt you'll have plenty of questions for our wonderful panelists. You can use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen to ask any questions at any point during the discussion, and our moderator will try her very best to get through as many as possible. With that, let's get to it. It's my true honor to turn the discussion over to our moderator, my friend and colleague, Dr. Karen Philbrick, from the Minetta Transportation Institute. I've known Karen for many years and always look forward to her insight and energy when it comes to the topic of supporting and advancing women in transportation. With that, I turn it over to you, Karen.
Well, thank you so much, Melissa. It's such a privilege to be invited to participate today in not one way, but two ways. So to everyone joining us, I have the privilege of being both the moderator, but also offering some answers as a speaker. So it's going to be a fun and engaging time. Our goal for the next hour together is just to have real talk like you'd have sitting around a living room, veering away from the academics and talking about things we have found that are work and are effective in real space. So by way of background, I lead the Minetta Transportation Institute at San Jose State University. There we focus on surface transportation research, technology transfer, education, and workforce development. This particular event falls squarely in workforce development as well as technology transfer, and it's a delight to celebrate Women's History Month with all of you. I am joined by four truly outstanding panelists, and I am so excited to introduce you to them. We have Erin Rogers. She is the CEO and General Manager of Omnitrans, and importantly, she's the chair of the California Transit Association Executive Committee. Now, for anybody who's ever heard me moderate in the past, I don't like to read boring bios. We can read those ourselves. I like fun facts. So I ask everybody to send a fun fact in advance. And I went to bed last night, unfortunately thinking Erin must be no fun at all because she didn't share anything. But lo and behold, I got some information today. She loves music. She loves the Grateful Dead. Erin, this is not just for you. This is truly my water bottle.
Wonderful.
She's now a Swiftie, and if she had a walk-up song, it would be The Man. So now you know a little bit about Erin if you ever want to develop a friendship outside of the professional space. We also have Alicia Trost. She's the Chief Communications Officer for the Bay Area Rapid Transit District, better known as BART. She is the most phenomenal storyteller I have ever seen in action. Everybody has best practices to learn from Alicia. But her fun fact is she's the first person in the history of the world to launch an anime mascot for a U.S. transit system. That's pretty cool. But on a personal note, she also loves to do meal preps on Sunday for her family, just starting that week off right through organization and connectivity. Then we're going to turn to Toni Tinoco. She's the Assistant Deputy Secretary for Communications at the California State Transportation Agency. And Toni, you'll have to share your fun fact with us when we turn to you. Oh, I've got it right here. I'm sorry. When you're not thinking about transportation, You're usually planning your next trip, which sounds exciting. But more importantly, when you go to Italy or anywhere else, you do a lot of FaceTiming with your golden retriever so she can't forget you. But you know, when I read your fun fact, it inspired me to actually take a look at the literature. People are better off planning multiple small trips than one large trip. The smaller trips maximize happiness through repeated anticipation, reduce stress, and reduce fatigue. So keep thinking about all those great trips that you're going to be going on. I think that's very cool. And we have a lot to learn from each one of our guests joining us today. And then we've got Miss Amanda Kahn. She's the senior engineering geologist for Caltrans. Her fun facts, on top of being a geologist, she's actually a trained Pilates instructor. If you ever want to nerd out, she would love to talk to you about Pilates. That's one of her favorite things to do. So you can see how these, when you ask somebody what do they do for work, it creates a hierarchy of success. If you slightly change that question to what do you like to learn? What do you like to do? You learn who does Pilates, who likes music, who loves to be with their dog. All of these things help you connect on different levels, which will uplift you both personally and professionally as you continue to work with people. She's also an avid athlete. She's backpacked the High Sierra Trail, which is 72 miles, including summiting Mount Whitney. This is incredible. And she was a cheerleader for 3 years in college, and she can still do a backflip on a good day. So you can see you're surrounded by women of action. We encourage you to drop questions in the Q&A feature, pardon me, but we're going to open with a really soft and fun question. And that is, simply tell us how you got into transportation. So I'll start just to set the stage. I was actually in the first day of my PhD program at the University of Denver. I was one of 6 students that was accepted into the program. So everybody very much felt the imposter syndrome. We're scared. Why were they there? Did they belong? And I had a professor walk in, and he's that what you would picture, kind of messy, papers trailing behind him. His shoes aren't really tied very well, really creative, but not very good at dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And all he said was, who wants to earn extra money as a research assistant and who wants to travel? So I raised my hand, and 2 weeks later, I was at the CSX freight rail carrier in Richmond, Virginia at 2 a.m. in steel-toed boots, collecting data on locomotive engineers and conductors. I learned about operator response to person under the train tragedies, such as grade crossing accidents and trespasser incidents. But I also learned the impact of fatigue and how important instituting good sleep patterns and fatigue countermeasures are to safety. When I returned to Denver and I returned to my practicum seeing patients who were mentally ill and chemically addicted, I had an epiphany, true to the word. I heard a freight whistle, and in that moment, I knew I belonged in transportation. That day, I changed my focus, and I've been in this sector ever since. Did I plan on it? Hell no. Do I love it? Absolutely. Let's hear the stories of our other speakers today. Erin, why don't you start first?
All right. Thank you, Karen. And first, I want to start by just saying what a great honor it is to be on this panel. Thank you for selecting me, CTA, and I'm just looking forward to the discussion. So I'll start with, did I plan it? Hell no. Do I love it? Yes. I'll start by echoing that. So I was 1 year out of college, and I'll give you your math problem for today. I turned 60 yesterday, and this would have been 1989. So I was living in Boston, and I was working at the Union Oyster House, America's oldest restaurant. And I had a large party come in that was celebrating winning a contract with the MBTA in Boston for paratransit service. And they were sitting at our largest table, which we rotated because you got very big tips at that table. And they were celebrating, and I was having a lot of discussion with them. And they said, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I said, "I'm currently looking for jobs." I didn't have a lot of direction at the time, and I said, I have some job interviews." And they said, "We're starting this big operation here in Boston. You should come meet with us and talk to us about it." And I did. And I made the decision to join Dave Transportation, which probably everyone on this panel is too young to remember. And later moved to California, where I eventually was assigned to a contract with the Orange County Transportation Authority for paratransit. So I did start in paratransit and started working for the Orange County Transportation Authority in 1994 and spent the majority of, a lot of my career working at the Orange County Transportation Authority. And so what stands out to me most about my career in transportation is that it's really been about people and safety. And so again, did I plan it? Did I go to school for it? Did I choose it? No. But it's been just a wonderful journey with all immeasurable number of colleagues.
I love that story. It's just another one where you fell into it and fell in love, and here you stay. So this is
Yeah.
just great. Amanda, why don't you go next?
Okay, thank you, Karen, and also just so excited to be here and on this panel with so many amazing women, and really looking forward to our conversation today. So similar to the first two speakers, I did not choose transportation. So as Karen shared, I'm a geologist, so I studied geology. And my senior year of college, I got an internship. Because my student advisor had recommended I get an internship. And I should add that I studied geology, not really thinking that I would have to get a job afterwards and what I could do as a geologist. I did not have that wherewithal to think about that when I was 17 years old and picked a major. So in my internship, I started working at a consulting firm that did geotechnical engineering. And as I wrapped up that internship, they said, "Hey, do you want a job?" And I didn't apply and I didn't negotiate my salary, which I probably should have. But I said, "Sure, I'm a broke college student and I need a paycheck." So I accepted the job and started working in transportation, specifically working on geotechnical design of bridges and mostly roadways and bridges and retaining walls. And so I started doing that and I was out in the field. I was traveling all over California. I was looking at soil and rock all across the state. I was learning new things each and every day. And I learned a little bit about some buildings and some environmental work. And I was like, nope, like that just doesn't do it for me. The bridges, the retaining walls, all the transportation infrastructure is just really exciting and really unique. So that's where I've been ever since, and has since led me to work at Caltrans, knowing that I wanted to work on transportation infrastructure. And so now there's just been endless opportunity here at Caltrans. And I have to say, I'm actually out in the field right now, and I took this photo yesterday. I was up on this hillside
Nice.
and doing some inspection of this drapery mesh, which we're installing for rockfall protection for worker safety and safety for the traveling public. And so I love it. It's so exciting working in transportation and working here at Caltrans, getting to see the entire state of California and working on our highway system.
Well, thank you for that. And I love the image. It reminds me of leadership in action. And I have to tell just one small story. Do you all remember when the bridge collapsed in Maryland in March a couple of years ago? The Francis Key Scott Bridge? We were
Yes.
doing a session called Trailblazer Tuesdays, highlighting women leaders. That very day, we were highlighting NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy. So I woke up that morning, the bridges collapsed. I start calling her team, pulling the plug on everything. And she said, absolutely not. This is how people learn. And she did the webinar in a flak jacket being driven around the scene. So I think the more we let people see, like the photo you have, what we're doing in action, the better it tells the story and the rich opportunities available to all of us. Alicia, will you please go next?
Yeah, I found transit and BART specifically 14 years into my professional career. I was working at the state senate, doing communications work for the Senate President Pro Tem. And because of term limits, I was like, oh, I'm about ready to move on. And I track everything in the news, which is a really important lesson for everyone watching today, is you have to be very aware of what's going on in your communities at all times if you want to be relevant. And I saw that most likely Bart would need a new spokesperson soon based on what was happening in the news. And I just knew right away, I'm like, I would rock that job. It would be like policy, high impact, politics. I grew up in the Bay Area, so I knew Bart, and the media is obsessed with Bart. So I was literally like, bring it on. And I cold applied. People didn't know me, and I had to go through, I think, like 3 or 4 rounds of interviews because they really wanted to make sure, as the spokesperson, they knew who they were hiring. And I've loved it. And I've really embraced the chaos that is transit and tried to use that to just propel amazing things when it comes to storytelling and connecting with communities.
I love that. So, another unique path. Thank you for sharing that, Alicia. Tony, will you round us out, please?
Yes, and I'm so honored to be around such wonderful women who are excited about transportation. It's really neat and refreshing. Um, I think along the same lines, my path into transportation wasn't linear. I actually started as a reporter in my hometown, Fresno. And so I was covering crime, courts, government, definitely running towards the fires and the crime scene tape. And so was very interested in that. But I actually got a call from a local politician, and he asked me to come work for him to cover communications, some legislative work. And he was very focused on transportation. So that was kind of my first step into that world. He was a big proponent of high-speed rail, and it was just getting started in the Central Valley.
Who
And so
was
that
this?
was, yeah, that was my first step into learning about this
Ooh.
big, big project that's never been done in the United States. And so I went on to work for him, and then eventually with high-speed rail. And so I got to meet wonderful women like Melissa with high-speed rail. And so a lot of my work was focused on working with the media that I was very familiar with, but then also stakeholder engagement, learning about the needs of our communities and how high-speed rail would impact them and their mobility options, and making sure that we understood and heard their voices and how it framed our work. And so recently, well, actually spent 10 years with high-speed rail until recently. I came to join CalSTA with Secretary Tokso Mashakin, and so I get to keep working with high-speed rail, but now all other transportation agencies in the state. So it's been really fulfilling, and yeah, I've really enjoyed it thus far. I didn't think I'd be here.
Well, very good. Well, thank you for joining us. So I don't know about all of our listeners or even our panelists, but what I just heard was a geologist, a psychologist, a person in politics, and a reporter who have all come together to create a better transportation system and improve mobility. Why am I drawing everyone's attention to that? Because if we're truly going to solve the workforce shortage, we need to look beyond the boundaries of planning and engineering, and we need to ensure that everybody sees a place for them. For example, on my team, I have a graphic designer. I've got somebody else who was in kinesiology. I mean, we have a job for anybody in this industry. So keep telling your story. And I have a challenge. The next time you're giving a speech and you're looking out at a room, anybody today, ask how many people knew they wanted to be in transportation. And if you ever get more than 5, I want to know about it because that would be exceptional. Very interesting. So I want to talk about associations and opportunities for networking as we build our connections in the industry and we find mentors and hopefully champions and those that will sponsor us into next steps. When I think of that, I think closer to home in the Bay Area, I really focus in on WTS and Compto, for example. So those organizations have long emphasized mentorship and sponsorship, as we know. They help leaders grow, they support the next generation. How has this helped you in your life, or how are you currently giving back in this space? And I bet I know who's going to answer first. Go for it. Amanda, would you like to go first?
There we go. Sorry, I got stuck on my mute. Um, so yeah, in addition to being a geologist and being out at sites like this, I have been volunteering with WTS Sacramento for the last 9 years. And I currently have the immense pleasure to serve as the chapter president. And we have a board of 30 or so women that all volunteer their time to better support the mission of WTS, which is to advance women in transportation. Um, but I want to share a little bit how I got into it. So when I first started in the workforce, I was the only woman in my office. In a group of engineers and geologists, I was the only woman. And my boss at the time was a real champion, and he said, like, hey, I recognize that you don't have any peers here, and we're never going to be able to provide you that with who we have here in this office. But I want you to get involved with WTS. So he's like, go attend all the lunch programs, go attend a professional development workshop, go to the conference. Like, I will support you. Whatever you need, we'll pay for membership. Like, we want to provide you that support and camaraderie and female peers in the workforce. So that led to me attending some meetings and getting involved. And again, not really kind of similar to how we got started in transportation. I did not see myself getting involved and becoming the chapter president, but things just work out the way they do sometimes. But so I would just say for anyone, if you're maybe not finding your peers or some camaraderie in your workplace or in your office or in your immediate group, to look outside your workforce and or your work and look into professional organizations. I definitely recommend WTS, but there's lots of other organizations out there that you might be able to find your people if you're not able to find it where you currently are. So I would really encourage anyone to get involved with WTS.
That's an excellent recommendation. And for any of our participants who might be emerging leaders or students, I have a little tidbit for you that I take very seriously. If you ever feel uncomfortable, if you're in a social situation or a professional situation, or like you just don't belong there, remember, people love to talk about themselves. So all you have to do is ask an open-ended question. What do you like to do for fun? Again, it opens up a whole wealth of other topics and allows you to make connections. The more people are talking, the more they feel connected to you, even if you're not sharing information in return. You don't ever have to be nervous. Just open with an open-ended question, and that will start the conversation. Alicia, have you ever had a time with a mentor or a sponsor that stands out for you?
Yes, I did the Leadership APTA program
Yes, you did.
and then the Bay Area's executive leaders through WTS program. And they're really great because they force you to carve out time for yourself, and you have to look at, like, what are your values? Actually write them down, figure out problem solving, talking about the difference between mentorship and being a coach. So that you can be a better leader at work. And because if you don't carve time out to do that work, which by the way can be very uncomfortable and vulnerable also, you don't really get it in your day-to-day programming at work. And so it's important that you put yourself out there. And one thing that I'm a huge advocate for internally at BART, and something that you should take back to your workplace, is these opportunities, and especially as women and especially as young mothers, sometimes they're not afforded to you at that time in your life. And it's because the decision makers are making an inaccurate assumption that, oh, she needs to get home to her kids. This isn't a good time for her. I'm a big, strong, like, proponent of, well, you need to ask them, because this may be a time in their life that they're willing to put aside to focus on themselves. Like myself, I missed my son's middle school graduation because of
Oh.
Leadership APTA. But that was a decision I made, that I needed that program at that time. And thank goodness I went through it. It was at a time I was being promoted here at BARD, and I was really in the leadership role in the executive team. And these are sacrifices that you have to ask yourself if you're willing to make. And so I'm just a really big fan of, make sure it's known to your bosses and executives that you are open to these opportunities no matter where you're at in your life, if that's where you're at. And of course you should think a lot about if is that the right time. But and never feel bad about it. That's I did something for myself, and believe me, I made it up. My son doesn't even remember that I wasn't at his middle school graduation. We still celebrated it, and I joined by FaceTime, of course, while I was in DC for the program.
I have a serious question about that for myself personally, but I'm assuming for many of our other participants that are watching today. How did you get over feeling guilty about prioritizing yourself over something like that? Because I struggle every day. I have a 13-year-old. How do you do it?
I care just about as much as my own self and my performance at work as I do about being a mother. I mean, I don't know how else to explain that. And I know that I show up in so many other ways for my children and my husband. And I'm lucky to have a husband that is able to do the weekend work and the night work if I'm too busy. While it was a little sad and I feel bad, and that's why I wanted to admit it today, like to give you all that moment to be like, well, if Alicia gave up such an important part of her kid's life, I can too. And again, I do not regret it. I mean, that program at that moment in my life has definitely helped propel me to the position I'm at right now at BART and across the industry. I just sort of moved on from it really fast.
Alicia, I simply can't tell you how powerful that statement was. I think that's a lesson and something many people will be reflecting on long after this ends.
Yeah.
Thank you for being transparent and bold. Erin, would you like to talk about a time you've either had a mentor or mentored someone?
Yes, of course. This is a great topic, and thank you for sharing that, Alicia. I think women balancing the demands of the career is, adds a whole different dimension. But I will say I'm a big proponent of Leadership APTA as well. I went through the program in 2010. I've been on the committee now for 3 years, so I have the opportunity to work with those now in the program, and I also mentor emerging leaders. So I have multiple people that I mentor formally. And then I will say that I would just share for the group that mentors are not always, it doesn't always have to be this very formalized, will you be my mentor? Will you mentor me? Will you meet with me once a month? We can be mentored just by paying attention, right? We can be mentored by being really aware of what's happening in our organizations, what looks like it's working, what's not working. And I'll say for me, I've had many, I mean, I have been so blessed with many mentors and many sponsors. One I'll mention is, when I decided to take the job at Omnitrans, Scott Graham had come to me and he knew he was retiring, and he said, I want you to come be my deputy because you're the right person. You're the right person to become the CEO when I retire.
That's
And I
awesome.
said no for a year. I said no for a year. No, thank you. No, I don't think that's for me. And then I finally did it. And I think sometimes people see things in us we don't see in ourselves. That was not necessarily something that I aspired to, but the truth is my entire career prepared me for it.
Mhm.
And I was very ready to do it by the time I came. I mean, the years I spent at OCTA, I call that like, that was my boot camp, right? I learned really everything I needed to know to be successful in this role by the varying levels of responsibility I had there. And I know this is long, but one other thing I'll say about OCTA, to Alicia's point, is I was the very first person that OCTA ever allowed to work part-time when my kids were young. And
Really?
ultimately, yes. And ultimately, because I was so conflicted that I was going to leave, and they allowed me to work part-time. And ultimately, I did leave for a period of time when I had 3 small children because I just didn't feel like I could do the balance, and ended up going back there after that. So I think the mentors are important, the sponsors are important, but also just paying attention to what's going on around you and letting those you're working with, whether they're people on your team or your boss, know what your needs are, right? if somebody doesn't tell us, oh, I'm really struggling with this, we may not know.
Excellent points. And so, I take some notes while you all are talking because it tickles little things in my brain that I think are so critically important. To your point, Erin, about paying attention, it's the leader of an organization that sets the emotional tone for everybody around them. It's the leader that sets the psychological safety. So we talk about safety all the time in transportation, but we talk about physical safety. The other half of that missing equation is your psychological safety, which is defined as the ability to share your honest, transparent feedback without fear of repercussions, harm, or being thought ill of by your colleagues or your bosses. It really breaks down barriers so anybody in the organization feels like they can actively contribute to a solution. Very important when you talk about creating cultures where people want to stay and where people are supported. And paying attention to how people learn, Erin, that's another very effective retention strategy. People learn differently. I want to read it. I want a checklist. I don't want the details. I'm not creative. That my brain does not work like Alicia's. I'm never going to look at a roll of toilet paper and think this is a story like she does. But so we're different. We need to honor that and try to adapt to each person so that each person has an equal opportunity to excel. Now, Tony, you heard a lot of your colleagues talk about mentorship and championship. I'm going to say one small thing about my experiences and then see if you'd like to offer anything. I have taken a lot of wonderful best practices that I will emulate from my mentors. But let's be honest, I've taken some that I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole that I think are career suicide. So as you learn from your mentor or your champion, remember you need to really consider each action and if it's a good fit for you, if it aligns with your value system, and it's a part of your trajectory of growth. And decide what works and what doesn't. Tony, what do you have?
For me, representation has always been top of mind. Making sure people who come from communities like from where I'm from, that they see themselves in this type of work in transportation because it affects them, whether they know it or not, or they recognize it or not. So that's something that's always grounded me, especially my time at High Speed Rail, really being intentional about partnering with universities, with community colleges, with high schools even, making sure that students were exposed to different transportation fields that they could access, that they could get those mentors or ask those questions and feel like there's a place for them too. So that was very much focused on, especially in the Valley, we were realizing a lot of graduates, engineers, other types of fields, they were leaving to the Bay Area, they were going to LA, and we needed that work to stay in the Valley because they were very talented students. So making that effort, like I said, being very intentional about that and making sure that they were linked up to some of the big companies, the primes, the subs, making sure that they had access and were able to network, find those mentors to keep them here, that local talent, that was very crucial. Aside from that, I mean, just the internships, the workforce programs, in a place like the Valley where, like I said, representation is so important, you have a very high unemployment rate in that part of the state. And so recognizing that, and then in turn, creating those opportunities for community members, that's always been something that's really near and dear to me.
Absolutely. And it always brings up one of my very favorite statistics about the high-speed rail project, which was before that construction began in the Central Valley, the unemployment rate was roughly 25%. And over the years, they put over 17,000 people to work and the unemployment dropped down to the single digits, really showing the power of these types of projects to help build lives. I think that is so incredibly important. And we touched a little bit about hiring. Let's go there. Let's talk about strategies for making sure we're recruiting and bringing people into the industry in a way where they feel like they belong and they can see themselves. So, for example, I know from looking at the literature, because I'm a researcher, that you can do very simple things. Institute diverse hiring panels. It's not okay for it to be all white men on a hiring panel. You need to have a diversity of people represented so people feel that sense of belonging. Challenge unconscious biases, or if people even know what that is. That's something that people need to be educated on. They need to be responsible if they've done it, and they need to correct their actions. We've got to celebrate and showcase female role models. Like earlier today, we're at the BART headquarters, and we've got Grace Kruniken and Therese McMillan with us. We're telling their stories. Those are two of the most profound women leaders in the Bay Area. The more they give back, the more they inspire, and the more that we can learn. What are some other practices that you all have seen in your real-time lives on how we should diversify the talent pool further? And this is open, so anybody who's most excited can go first.
I'll jump in. So you really have to bring community into the transit space by doing either station activations or train activations, events, things that people want to be part of. And then when they're there, you get to know them and you actually start to see, hey, you add value to BART and you should really consider employment here, especially when you're dealing with young people, college age students. They don't even see themselves as we've all been talking about. So you almost have to put it in their mind. We just wrapped up every April. We play special announcements for Autism Acceptance Month, and we record the announcements with youth and young adults. We just had that event on Friday, and this for the first year, I paid some of the older kids that participated in the last few years. They were team leaders and we paid them, and they helped
Wonderful.
curate the event, and they served as spokespeople for the project when the media came, and they led activities during the event. And so one was an 18-year-old, one was 14, and one was 11. And I'm showing them that what you have autism, you could still work at BART. You maybe have some neurodiversities, you can still work at BART. You add value. And so you really need to get out. You have to go into the community and bring them in. I mean, that's one of the internships that are obviously a great way. And then once you have an internship program, what kind of career ladder are you building? Our engineering internships are just about ready to launch here at BART for summer. And for the first time that if you're ready, you might be able to move into a junior engineer program. But these things take years to set up. So you have to start thinking about them now, getting people the foot in the door, and then I'm going to offer you an entry-level job on the spot because you've been working here for a few months as an intern and you're doing great. So you have to start programs like that.
That's not the first time I've heard you speak about the power of going into the community, whether that's to address transit assault on young women
Yep.
and girls, or whether it's for recruiting or getting information. You seem to have experienced tremendous success using this in multiple avenues.
Yeah, we paid college-age girls to come and help us make BART safer. Tell me your ideas, and then we actually implemented them. They helped me with social media content. One of them was even on a pre-doctoral path, and she came, she wanted to do lunch. Absolutely, you've got to carve out the time for young people who ask you for your time. And she told me she was thinking of changing her mind and no longer wanting to become a doctor because she was so inspired by the work she did for BART that she may want to now work in transit. And so I was like, what do you,
That's a
how can I
win.
support you? And so you really have to go out of your way because um, she recognized the power of making women and gender expansive youth feel comfortable in transportation. So she already sort of had that mindset. She just didn't realize how passionate she was about it and that you could make a job or career out of it. So it's really important to get them early. That's why I've launched the anime mascots. We did the Not One More Girl program, this program with youth on the spectrum. These are all targeting young school age, high school, and college. And it's all a strategy, not just to get more writers, but it's to get our future workforce.
Absolutely. This is a discussion, ladies.
Yeah.
Jump in.
And
Are you inspired?
yeah,
Darren.
I would love to jump in. So for us, of course, post-pandemic hiring transit workers has been a huge challenge for us. And we've made a lot of progress. We have, let me start with our frontline worker programs. So likewise, I mean, we're talking, we have a partnership with San Bernardino Valley College for an apprenticeship program for vehicle technicians. We've had 4 in the program, and they're graduating and they're working here now. So like we had one that just got his certificate and now is full-time employed. His uncle works here. So it's, there's just a lot of pride in this young person seeing that they're going to have a career here in transit, raise their families, buy their homes, put their kids through school. We also started in partnership with our local ATU 1704 and a mentorship program for brand new bus operators to help
Smart.
give them the framework to be successful, because the younger people coming in, it's a very difficult environment. I think we would all agree with that. And so that gives them the framework for success. They get assigned to a mentor when they start, and that's someone who can help them be successful in the job. We also have an internship program, which, is for professional jobs. Our accounting manager started here as an intern. All 3 of our maintenance managers started here working on the fuel island, fueling and washing buses at night. So we've just really taken a kind of grow our own approach and tried to make those career paths very evident. We have bus wraps that say Omnitrans is more than a job, it's a career. Wonderful marketing campaign by, many of you probably know our marketing director, Nicole Ramos. So really just promoting the career paths so people see that this is, and kind of to Tony's point about people staying in this region, and also talking about our role as a large employer in the region. I mean, we're providing people their livelihood here, right? They're raising their families by working here. And then, of course, we do a lot of other things like with the Girl Scouts, STEM events, and participate in WTS and all those kinds of things. But what
All the
really
good
stands,
stuff.
all the good stuff. But what really stands out to me is the framework that we've set up for internal promotions and people moving up and making the career path very obvious so people can see themselves in the future.
And that leads to a great question that we've had some questions here, so I'm going to pivot for a minute. One of the first questions I saw, I don't know if it was taken down, was, can you briefly just say what position you started in and what position you hold now? So for me, I started as a research assistant, and now I'm the CEO executive director. Amanda?
I started out as a field geologist and have since promoted a couple times. Now a senior specialist position here at Caltrans. And on the WTS side, I started out as our membership chair and served on many chair positions and each of our executive board positions, treasurer, secretary, vice president, and now president.
Perfect. Erin, I'm just going around who I see.
Okay, I started as a project manager, and I'm CEO and general manager.
Love it. Tony?
I was an information officer 1, and I'm now an assistant deputy secretary for communications with Kelsta.
Awesome. Alicia?
I was an assistant segment producer for a local TV news show right out of college, and I'm now the chief communications officer at BART.
I love this. This is such cool stuff. By the way, Amanda, you got a compliment saying, beautiful story, Amanda, from something you said. So we're thrilled about that.
Thank you.
We've got a question here from Jill. Do the panelists have ideas of how Americans can start to think about working in transit/transportation instead of falling into it? Oh, yes, we do. What would that look like if our population made transportation a readily recognizable employment option? Okay, who would like to go first with that one?
I think circling back to what I mentioned earlier is, doing that intentional work, getting into the high schools. And I think there's even been outreach in elementary schools, giving kids the idea of you can have a career in STEM. You can be an engineer. You can work on those big trains passing by, but starting very young and making sure that they have the answers to their questions, showing them women other young people in those career fields that it's possible and it's a lot of fun. And so beyond that, just continuing your work into the community colleges, universities, and making those opportunities available.
Yeah, I agree completely with Tony. And I would also add that, um, for some, becoming an engineer may feel out of reach. There's also, like I mentioned, the frontline jobs, right? There's technician jobs. There's other technical jobs that technical training is required. So we're doing the same thing with outreach to schools, um, high schools, colleges, and so I think making people aware by events like this and that intentional outreach will really help get us there, both on uh, the technical jobs and the being an engineer, people don't even realize. I mean, we have a marketing department, we have a finance department, we have an HR department. So we have, a transit agency or a transportation agency also has a lot of other disciplines, right?
For your geologist and your
Yes.
psychologist and your reporter,
Right.
we've got it all.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
want to jump in and share something before I turn to the other panelists. So, workforce development is something I have thought significantly about for years as the leader of a university transportation center. You have completely missed the boat if you're starting in high school or college. So, to your point, Tony, we actually released curriculum in the preschools to get kids just talking about transportation, because I would almost bet you $100 if you stopped the average person and said, what careers are in transportation? They could say pilot, train operator, and bus driver, and be hard pressed to go beyond that. And so we released this 42-second video of this little girl talking about all of the things she learned. And she's talking about ferries and trains and light rail systems and boats. She never mentions a single occupancy vehicle. So points there. But we've also pilot tested and released curriculum in the elementary schools on sustainability, how we move people and how we move goods. We create playing cards where they practice those mathematical skills they learn along with how we move. Beyond that, we have an essay contest in high school. We give them a prompt. They can win up to $1,000, really writing about their solution to whatever the prompt is. We have poster contests for kids who aren't quite as articulate to express themselves visually, very beautiful. We have a middle school program, the Garrett Morgan Sustainable Transportation Program, where middle schoolers participate for 3 months working with a mentor to develop a sustainable project that is then judged by an independent review panel, and the winners are flown to San Jose to take part in our annual commencement address and gala. And then beyond that, for high school, we have a 3-week non-residential program on the campus of San Jose State University, completely free of charge, for kids with an emphasis on Title I schools, meaning the preponderance qualify for free or reduced lunch. They take a class on environmental science and they go on 12 field trips. They learn from the mechanics at VTA. They go to learn from the engineers at the Central Valley construction for high-speed rail and stand on the viaduct. They are exposed to all sorts of things. And then, of course, we've got bachelor's, master's, and beyond. But the key is we need to have a system that has no missing rung in that ladder. Alicia, what do you have to offer?
I feel like I've already said it of the,
Okay.
meeting people where they're at, inspiring them and
Love
making
that.
sure they see themselves in your organization.
Karen, I can jump in.
Go.
Speaking about WTS, so we have our Transportation U, which is our youth outreach group, as part of our board, and we outreach and we go to local middle schools and high schools. And so I want to plug this too. WTS, we have the Capital Summit, where students from across the United States travel to the University of Maryland and spend a week there at the University of Maryland, and they visit all the transportation infrastructure and learn about transportation. And WTS Sacramento, we sponsor those students to attend. So I just have to add, the application period is open right now, and it closes at the end of the month. So if you have a high school student that is interested in transportation, please reach out to me or Melissa with CTA, and we'll get you information so your student can apply so we can pay for them to learn all about transportation at the University of Maryland. And then the other thing I wanted to add, Karen, is
Yeah.
our Transportation U group was just asked to present to a preschool and first grade class. So even younger, we're trying to get students more interested in transportation. So I might need a copy of that video if that's
It's
Absolutely.
something that we
amazing.
can bring
It'll
over to the
make your heart
school.
melt. And it's so funny because the little girl's 4, so at the end she kind of starts picking her nose. I mean, it's a 4-year-old getting videoed. It's funny. It's adorable.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna just a little shout out for Bart here. A person said, I just wanted to share that I was one of the college youth involved with the Not One More Girl campaign at Bart. It inspired my future work in social change organizations and public policy advocacy.
Yep.
Nicely done,
That's
Bart and
Uche,
Alicia.
and I have been following your career, Uche, through LinkedIn. And while we talk about LinkedIn, I cannot stress how important LinkedIn is to you and your professional development and your storytelling. That is one thing I offer my coworkers, and especially the women coworkers here at BART, is I'm like, I will look at your posts before you post it. I can help you
So
punch it
good.
up. It is the place to storytell now, like what's happened with X and Twitter, that people are flocking to LinkedIn even for long form storytelling. And it's not just about career development anymore. It's really showcasing your voice and what value you add. And even when I post something about something cool I'm doing at BART, I can't tell you like how many people are stopping me to be like, I saw that post and it really inspired me. So, and one thing to take away from today is really think about your LinkedIn game, and follow other people and see how they're using it to their advantage and what types of things they're posting, because it's something that really could get you your next job. You just never know whose radar you're going to get on because of a post that you've done, and you have to tell your story internally. You've got to put it together a PowerPoint presentation and shop it around and make case studies of the good work you've done, and learn those presentation skills so that one day when you're asked to come present to your board, you're ready to go.
Love that. And there have been lots of positive reinforcement in the Q&A. And to the 2 people that asked for the video I just spoke of, I've dropped it into the response. We don't have enough time, but we've got lots of questions. And so the one that really stands out to me is, what is one piece of advice you would give your younger self? You guys want me to call on you first, or you want to go for it?
Don't wait on an opportunity until you feel 100% ready. I think a lot of people have this hesitation of, I don't think I know enough. Maybe I'm not qualified enough, so I'm just going to wait it out. There's someone better for it. And I'd say go for it. If you're being approached
Good stuff.
for a position, if you're being looked at, I'd say go for it.
Love it. Erin?
I would say, ooh, there's so many. Don't be afraid to ask for help. People want to support.
That's a good one. That is a very good one. Too often we're afraid to ask.
Yes.
And people are delighted when they
People
are.
want to help.
They do.
Yes.
Alicia or Amanda, either one of you.
So me, one of my biggest things I need to work on, another moment of being vulnerable and admitting my flaws, is a we, not I mindset. And I think I spent so much time fighting for my own voice and to be heard and to make it in a male-dominated industry that sometimes I take too much credit in the I did this, I did that, and I'm reminded, oh, it's we, not I. And it's absolutely right. So that's just and it's something that I'm continuing to work on, that everything in the workplace is a we, not I. So I would have liked to have learned that earlier in my career for just some humility.
That's a good point. Very good. Amanda?
I think I would tell myself, don't be afraid of someone's title. Like if they have a really big, important title and like, why would they talk to me? Or I can't bother them. They have a really big, important title. Like they're just people. And also, just because they have a big, important title, they don't always have all the answers or know what they're doing either. So it's okay. Like they're just people, just like we are, and you can talk to them and reach out to them and ask them for help, and they might not help you or might not know, and that's okay regardless of their big important title.
Good point. Mine is 2-part, and it is be kind. Remember to be kind. This world is suffering from a lack of positive regard. And I would warn myself not to commit what's called the fundamental attribution error. What does that mean? It means if somebody cuts you off in your car, instead of thinking maybe they're on the way to the hospital because their mom is dying, you think, what a dick. And you ascribe all of these negative characteristics to the person. Somebody slights you at work. Maybe you just focus on that and you let that influence your entire perception of that individual. That's the fundamental attribution error. We need to give people grace. We come to work, but we lead full, rich lives behind us and outside of work, whether we're in the sandwich generation or any other point that comes with its own challenges. Be kind. That is the greatest advice I can give you, and I think it's one of the greatest predictors of success. Be kind, be accountable, listen with intention, and remember, people want to be heard. Now back to our awesome questions here, because I love all of this. Could you all give an example of a time where you've decided to celebrate your achievements, even when it felt uncomfortable to do so? Have you ever thrown yourself a party? Have you ever nominated yourself for a panel? Oh, that's a fun question. All right. Who wants to go first?
I definitely celebrated. I started my graduate program some years after graduating with my bachelor's. And in that same year, I finished my MPA, and then I also was promoted because of my MPA. So I did a little combined party and celebrated myself. And I thought, it's during COVID, it's really difficult. Let's try to make the most out of this, and giving myself a little bit of space to feel proud about all of the work that had been done. Yeah, it felt nice.
I can add to that too. I had really studied and passed professional licensure examinations, and I was very proud to pass it on my first try. And I didn't really know how to celebrate, right? I think as women too, we don't really like to talk about ourselves that much, or our accomplishments. So I texted a few friends like, hey, and they knew I was studying, right? Because I couldn't do things. I had to say no, I had to study. So I told them like, hey, I passed this exam. Does anyone want to get together and meet me for dinner maybe? And every single person said yes. Every person
Oh,
wanted
Of
to help
course.
celebrate. And so even if you're not really sure, just reach out to those trusted people in your life. They will know what to say and do, even if you don't know how to celebrate yourself.
that is great advice. Any last words on that particular topic? Okay, we've got 1 minute. I want to see if we can get to one more thing. Great panel. What's the one thing you wish you would have known as you progressed along your career? So not to your younger self, but as you've gone on and had successes, is there anything you wish you would have known in that process? I have one. I wish I would have known my favorite quote from Eleanor Roosevelt, which some of you have heard. You wouldn't worry so much about what people thought of you if you realized how seldom they do.
Mhm.
Think about that. You would not worry so much about what people thought of you if you realized how seldom they do. I don't know about you, but if I think I made a mistake at 4 a.m., I wake up and I'm the biggest failure on the planet and I have a hard time getting out of here. But at 8 a.m., I'm strong again. My defenses are back. But just quieting that voice and redirecting, I think, is when you're thinking about a mistake you made, you need to remember nobody else is. They're worried about their own rich lives. So give yourself a break and don't beat yourself up so hard. Anybody want to add a last thought?
That's a great one, Karen. I would add also a favorite quote of mine, and I probably won't get it exactly right now, but people are not going to remember what you said, right? And this is Maya Angelou,
Right.
but they will remember how you made them feel. And I often say to my team, as we're in an operating environment here, we're moving fast. We're seeing a lot of people, and every interaction we have with someone will help or hurt our relationship with them, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts from my other panelists as we turn right to 1 p.m.?
I'm going to add one thing back
Go.
when we were talking about diversity and also for Carolina's question in the chat. I would say, and this is from WTS, people want to work, or women want to work with other women. So with WTS, we have a board of 30 women. Like we no longer have to ask for volunteers or solicit board members. Like people are coming to me and asking how they can get involved and how they can join. So I think the proof is in the pudding. Women want to work with other women. If you want more women in your workforce and a more diverse workforce, hire women, show them doing these jobs, show them out there, and women will want to work there. Like if
Yeah.
I am going to join it somewhere and there's no women, I don't feel comfortable versus if I show up and there's another woman there, I instantly feel so much different. And that's
You're a
here in the
BFF.
field and that's here in the office. So women want to work with other women. So hire more women, bring them in. And also women get things done. Every single WTS board meeting ends on time or early. So
And women bring the color. But I hate to say it, it's 1 minute after one. We needed a half a day
yeah,
at least for this. Thank you, panelists. You really enriched my day. And based on the comments, you enriched a lot of people's lives with your messages. So thanks for joining us and happy Women's History Month.
thank you,
Thank
Yeah.
you.
everyone.
Karen.
Thank you.
Oh, and guess what? There is a link right there on your screen so you can browse upcoming webinars. You won't want to miss them. Almost failed on my job there. Scan those upcoming webinars. Bye, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.